Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Radhika Mehta, Associate Professor from Jagannath University, Jaipur. Today we'll be understanding the next topic of the subject print journalism. Evaluating news, news sense and news values. First of all, let's understand news sense. This is about the ability to recognize and determine what information is newsworthy and how it should be presented to the audience. It is a combination of skills, experience, and intuition that journalists develop over time. So, when we talk about the term news sense, it basically means that when thinking that an information can be as a news, we need to understand that what information can be defined as a news. So, when you talk about news sense, there has to be certain elements that should be involved into any news. So, news sense involves several key elements. The very first one is newsworthiness. It entails the ability to identify events, issues, or stories that are of public interest and significance. Journalists with news sense can distinguish between information and stories that have impact, and relevance to the audience. Next, relevance and timeliness. News sense helps journalists recognize the importance of timely reporting. It involves understanding the value of breaking news, exclusive stories, and events that have just occurred or are ongoing. Next, audience perspective. Journalists with news sense consider the interests, need, and preferences of their audience. They understand the demographics and characteristics of their target audience and tailor their reporting to effectively engage and inform them. Now let's take a look on the next point, news values. So news values refer to the criteria or factors that influence the selection and presentation of news stories. They help journalists and news organizations determine which stories are considered newsworthy and deserving of coverage. While news values may vary across different cultures and contexts, there are several commonly recognized news values. When we talk about news values, what comes in a journalist's mind is how to select and present a news story. When we talk about news values, that means selection of a story or the presentation of the story must have certain factors. For example, the very first one is impact. Stories that have a significant impact on individual communities or societies as a whole are considered newsworthy. It means the more the impact on maximum number of people, the more it will be considered as a big story. For example, if an accident occurred and many people died, that means it will have a huge impact on maximum number of people. So this can include events such as natural disasters, political decisions, or social issues. that affect a large number of people. When we talk about the term like natural disasters, is basically means like earthquake, or recently we can talk even about the pandemic situation all over the world. So this basically talks about that how the natural disaster created lot of problems in our country, and in fact around the globe people got affected. So this is an impactful story, or a story is related to the political decisions. When we talk about the political decisions in a democratic country like India, so every common man would like to know what is happening and how our government is working, as it helps them to vote for the next eligible candidate. In fact, when we talk about the term social issues, for example, the social issues can be about any topic which is related to the entire nation. It can be about the new education policy, or even if we talk about the new law, or getting in a process of making a bill into a law. So even such discussions which has entered from any social issue affects large number of people. So when we talk about news values, the very first one is the impact. Now let's get into the one, timeliness. Now, what is timeliness? News that is recent or unfolding in real time tends to prioritize. Journalists aim to report on current events to keep the audience informed about the latest developments. So when we talk about the term timeliness, it basically means the recent the news, the recent it is important. So the immediate information which is given by the news organization is always prioritized. Why? Because the information that goes to people will always have more impact and effect on common people. For example, if we talk about any festival which is about to come, like for example, in a month of August, we all would like to know about our Independence Day. And when we talk about that, what should be there in August, the news should be more about the Independence Day rather than talking about the New Year celebration. So, when we talk about such topics, it basically means that what is right now happening around you, you need to talk about it. Depending on like what is happening and how it is working on it, we need to understand that news organizations prioritize that what is the news and how it will have impact on people. Now let's take a look on proximity. Now, what is proximity? Proximity is basically related to the geographical area. Something it is like we measure it, we understand it on the basis of the distance. So, stories that are geographically or emotionally close to the audience are often considered more newsworthy. Local events or issues that directly impact the community are given priority. Next is prominence. News stories involving well known individuals, celebrities, or public figure tend to attract attention. So, what is prominence? Basically, prominence means prominent personality, well known faces that can be role model for people. It can be some influencers, or it can be the known faces which is seen by many thousands and lakhs of people. Events or issues connected to prominent people are often considered newsworthy due to their potential influence or public interest. We can take examples of politicians, we can take examples of Bollywood celebrities. Any action, any statement, or even a basic birthday party becomes a news for many people. Why? Because they are prominent personality. The next one is conflict. News stories that involve conflicts, controversies, or debates tend to garner attention. Conflicting viewpoints, political or social tensions, or even controversial events often make headlines. Next, let's understand human interest. Stories that evoke emotions, touch upon human experiences, or have a personal angle often attract readers or viewers. These stories focus on individuals or group and their unique, inspiring, or relatable experiences. Next, novelty. Unusual or rare events, discoveries, or situations often capture attention. Stories that deviate from the norm, break records, or introduce something new tend to be deemed newsworthy. Next is currency. News stories that align with current trends, popular topics, or emerging issues often receive attention. Journalists strive to cover subjects that are of contemporary interests or have relevance to ongoing discussions. Next is relevance. When we talk about the news stories, they have a direct relevance to the audience daily lives. Interest or concerns are considered newsworthy. These stories address topics that have a personal impact or provide practical information to the audience. Let's take a look on the last point, that is consequence. News stories that have significant consequences or potential implications for individuals, communities, or society are often given priority. These stories focus on issues that may lead to policy changes, societal shifts, or long term effects. So, it is important to note that news values are not fixed and different news organizations may prioritize them differently. Journalists exercise their professional judgment to apply news values while assuring accuracy, fairness, and ethical consideration in their reporting. Now let's take a look on a new topic, that is 5 W's and 1 H. So, what basically it is all about? Any news story which is explained or described for the readers, listeners, or viewers, they are always framed in a particular structure. These 5 W's and 1 H are basically a set of questions that journalists and investigators use to gather essential information about a news story or event. The objective of answering and finding out information about 5W and 1H is to have a better information and briefing about a story, event, or any occurrences. Now let's take a look on the very first one, that is who. The very first W is who, which refers to the people or individuals involved in the story. This includes the key actors, participants, or individuals affected by the event. This can basically be a person or many people who are basically involved in that story. It can be individual or many people. The next one is what. The second W is what, which means focuses on the central event or occurrence that is being reported. It seeks to identify the main action, incident, or topic of the news story. So, what action happened, what is the story all about, what incident happened, basically what took place. It was an accident, it was a riot, it was a bribe, or it was a robbery. What basically happened is the answer of what into 5 W's and 1 H. Now let's take a look on the next one, when. Now, when addresses the time frame or specific timing of the event. It seeks to determine the date, time, or period when the incident took place. Basically, when we talk about the accuracy of a news story, so from 5 W's and 1 H, it is the when who talk about specific timing and actually when it happened. They focus on the date, day, time, period so that readers understand the story in a better way. Now let's take a look on the next one, where. Where determines the location or place where the event happened. It provides details about the specific geographical location, venue, or setting of the stories. So, where can be a place or a location, it can be basically, it helps us people to relate where a situation or an event or any occurrences happened. How? Like if we talk about riots that is happening in Delhi, so people staying in Delhi will have more impact in that story. Same if something happening in Jaipur, so people will have more impact who are staying in Jaipur. So where basically helps us to locate the place, and then the proximity help people to understand the nearness of that story, ultimately which will have impact on their lives too. The next one is how. Now, how is about explaining entire incident, issue, or an event. Basically, it's about framing the entire story step by step. Basically, it can be giving you a visualization that how an incident happened. When we talk that which is the toughest one out of all is explaining how in the story. The next is why. Now, why is again one of the challenging W into 5 W's 1 H, because again we are looking for the reasons and the causes behind any incident, event, or an issue. So, what is why? Why is basically explore the reasons, motivations, or causes behind the event. It aims to understand the underlying factors or circumstances that led to the occurrence. Now let's take an example of 5 W's and 1 H. Taking the headline, fire breaks out at local shopping mall. Now when you are understanding the story, so what is who? Who means identify the people or individuals involved. So, who was affected by the fire? Were there any injuries or casualties? Did any specific individuals play a role in responding to the fire? So, now these 4 points answer who of this particular story. Now, let's understand what. Now, what describe the central event or occurrence? What caused the fire? What parts of the shopping mall were affected? What was the extent of the damage? These all three questions are answered in the what of 5 W's and 1 H. Next, when. When means determine the time frame or specific timing of the event. Like, when did the fire start? How long did it take to extinguish the fire? When did emergency services arrived on the scene? Next, where. Specify the location or place where the event happened. Or, where did the fire break out in the shopping mall? Which city or specific area is the mall located in? Are there any particular structural details about the mall that contributed to the fire? So these are the questions that are answered in where component. Now the next one is why. Explore the reasons, motivations, or causes behind the event. Why did the fire spread so quickly? Was there any negligence or safety violations involved? Was there any known fire preventions measures in place? The next is how, like focus on the methods or processes relevant or related to the event. Like, how did the fire affect the operations of the shopping mall? How did the authorities and firefighters respond to the emergency? How will the affected businesses and individuals be supported in the aftermath of the fire? So, by answering these questions, a new story can provide comprehensive information to the readers or audience, addressing the key aspects of the event and providing clear understanding of what happened. Taking care of what is going on. So basically, what is soft news is about understanding some soft issues, information in the context of entertainment. This is more about something that has doesn't have impact on maximum number of people. It is just something which interests limited number of people, and they read it, they listen it, or they go for a television, or they see a news on a television just for the sake of entertainment. But yes, they do cover the facts too. So today we learned about the basic two types of news, that is hard news and soft news. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, everyone.